G'day, I'm Chris Booby.
And I'm Trent Hogan.
Welcome to It's a Dogger's Life. G'day guys, welcome to another episode of It's a Dogger's Life. I'm Chris Booby. Thank you once again for watching. Today what we're doing is we're doing a video. I've decided it's very wet here at the moment. So it's raining here, even though there's nothing on the radar. Great. So I just thought I'll do a video today on different types of traps. So I often get asked what type of traps I'm using, and I use a variety of traps. I've got a few favorites, don't get me wrong, but over the years I've sort of chopped and changed that favorite as well, but I always keep going back to the MB650. So I'll show you that. I'll show you a good look at the MB650s that we use. I'll run through a Jake trap or a JC Connor trap, bit tight that one. Also a Dogless Bridger number 3 trap, and I'll also run through a Canine Extreme. So I'll just run through different ways to set them up. I'll actually get my tape measure out and measure the size of them as well, just to give you a bit of an idea of the different sizes and things like that. What I like and don't like about them, that'll be in there as well, and then that way it'll give you guys a bit of an idea when you're looking at purchasing some traps yourself, sort of, you know what you're dealing with, so then you can either purchase them on the internet or something like that. I'll also put links to all those traps, where you can get them from and stuff like that, in the comments below. So if you decide after watching this video that you want to go out and buy some traps for yourself to use, you can get them on the link below. So anyway, I'll get to it. Hope you enjoy. So we'll start off today with the MB650. As you know from my other videos and comments online and stuff like that, I use the MB650s quite a bit. What I like about MB650 is they're a very strong trap. So this particular trap I've probably had for, I don't know, 9 years now, something like that. So they're very good wearing traps. They continue to work well with very little maintenance. Obviously in situations you have to change out what we call the rubbers when a dog chews on the rubbers, but I find that with these particular MB650 traps that the dogs don't actually chew the rubbers out that much, so you don't need to change the rubbers out as much as what you would say on a Jake trap or something like that. The other thing I like about these traps is obviously they're very strong. You know, your steel in the trap is nice and it's not overly thick, but it's actually a good solid, you know, base plate. The jaws themselves are actually a good solid thick steel. The springs in these are incredible. I've never had any of these actually feel like they've weakened at all. They've just been a really good solid trap. So I'll go ahead and set it, and then we can look at the measurement. Alrighty, so this trap here is actually basically ready to fire now, so it needs a little bit of adjustment. Not too bad though, because the pan's still pretty flat. It has just got a little bit of a rise on it there, so I'd adjust this if I was putting this in the ground. But as you can see, the whole profile of the trap is actually very thin. It's you know, it's very good, because you don't have to dig a very big hole to actually fit that trap in the ground. And so you've got about 180 millimeters from top to bottom of the jaws. Inside the jaws is about 150 millimeters. That's length, and width is obviously, it's about 150 millimeters as well. The pan size is 75 millimeters by 75 millimeters, so it's virtually round the pan on these. MB650 in the ground here now, so I've just literally sat it in the ground. Don't be too harsh on me in the comments about what it looks like sitting in the ground there, because I'd obviously tidy it up a bit better, but it gives you a bit of an idea of what you're sort of looking at anyway. Obviously you need a little section under there for the chain and all your equipment to go under the trap, but if you put it out to the side, if the ground's really hard, you can just dig your chain out to the side or something like that, or if you've got a drag. So that whole trap bed is literally only, what's that, about 60 millimeters deep is all the size that you need to actually get that trap in the ground. So if you've got really hard rocky ground, maybe an MB650 something to consider. Now we've got the Bridger number 3 Dogless trap. Once again, these are a very good trap. I've just changed all these over from, I had some WTS number 3s and just literally changed them over a few weeks ago and went to these Bridger number 3 Dogless trap. The pan, you know, the pan's the same thickness. Everything's basically exactly the same. Obviously these will have a jaw and these are offset, but so once again, they're a very compact trap. They're nice and small. The hole definitely doesn't have to be very big at all. We'll do the measurements on this one. So that one there is actually, so it's 180 millimeters from top to bottom and 160 to inside of the jaws. So you've got a bit bigger of an area, obviously, for the dog to walk around on. The pan itself is a lot longer on these as well. So the pan is actually 130 millimeters, and then you've got a 60 millimeters wide. So yeah, the pan itself is actually a lot bigger in these traps, and sometimes what can tend to happen is it can affect your pan tension a little bit. How it does that is actually the pan tension can differ from back here compared to up closer to where the dog sits over the jaw, you know. Bit tight as well. Good here. Yeah. Just then you would have seen the difference between the pan tension from the center of the pan to the edge of the pan. It was probably about a pound. So that's just something to keep into consideration on these traps with the longer pan to lock the jaws down. So obviously there's pros and cons with all sorts of traps, but these have actually been very good, and I've been pretty happy with them. So either way, if you know, once again, if you're looking at buying some traps, they're definitely worth considering. Now this is what they call a Canine Extreme trap. So I don't know if you can see that, but mate, what a trap. Have a look at the quality in this trap and the thickness. The trap itself, do the measurements on it. So you've got 180 millimeters in length. Then from the inside the jaws, you've got about 155 millimeters. The pan size, once again, very long pan, so you'd probably have this similar issues with the pan tension as your WTS or Bridger number 3 Dogless traps. So you've got 130 millimeters by say 55-60 millimeters wide, which once again, nice big target area there for the dog to tread. One thing I will say about these style of traps, I don't know, I haven't seen any actual video footage of anything going wrong, and to be honest haven't lost any dogs out of the WTS number 3s or the Bridger number 3s, you know, in that sort of way. But basically the one thing I don't really like about these traps is the distance between this jaw here and the pan. In some cases what I could imagine happening, especially when you see the expander pans put on these type of traps, what I could actually see happening is the dog putting his foot both on the jaw and the pan at the same time, which could quite very easily happen. In my view on it is the dog, once he does that, would actually, when he sets the trap off, that actual jaw would then flick his foot off the trap, which would leave you without a dog in your trap, and the trap set off obviously, and a very scared dog. As I said, I've never actually had personally any video footage of that happening. Obviously, you know, we've had traps set off and stuff like that, and we just put them down to as best as we can of something happening, but I could see that actually happening. And actually when you see those big expander pans that you see some people put on the trap, and I've tried them myself, that was why I went away from them, because you know I could just see that actually happening. So that is one thing about these traps that I don't particularly, I'm not a massive fan of. So but once again, you look at this trap as a whole, they're a very, very solid trap. They're definitely a lot heavier duty than any of the other traps that we've sort of looked at today. Even the Jake trap, you know, these are a lot heavier duty than the Jake trap. So I'm imagining these are going to be lasting quite a while, you know, big heavy sort of trap. But once again, it's fine if you've got nice soft ground to have a big heavy duty solid trap like this, but when you got hard ground that's not very forgiving, and you're trying to put traps in, you know, any amount of traps in during the day, it's definitely you look for those traps that are a bit smaller. So as I was saying, it's just been starting to look around for a bit of a replacement for the Jakes, because they're no longer made anymore, so they're getting harder and harder to get. So obviously it's one of those things where once you have something that's no longer in production, it's good to find a replacement for them. So that's when the Canine Extremes come in. But I'll just put this back in here just so you can get a look of it in the ground, just in case I missed it before. You can see they sit nice and flat in the ground, the Jake traps. Never had any issues with them. So we've got 180 centimeters, 180 millimeters deep on that one, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, they're 160, 155 wide. The open jaws, the pan itself, you're looking at 100 mil deep, or just over 100 mil deep, and then 70 mil wide. So one thing with the Jakes is obviously they've been around for a long time. They're a very, very strong trap as well. I've never had any issues with them. Sometimes you find that they hit the dog's leg, or if you happen to catch a fox, they hit very, very hard. So I've never had any issues with them letting go of dogs, that's for sure. They hold on really, really well. One thing, just another little quick tip while I'm going here, I don't know if you've noticed or whatever, but when I'm ever grabbing my traps in their set, I tried and grab them from underneath. When you're putting them in the ground, it's very hard to actually hold them there and put them in the ground. So what I tend to do is actually hold them like that. So then if they go off, hopefully you don't smash your thumbs. But you just got to be careful when you're handling them anyway. With the Jakes or any of these traps with the loose jaw, you can actually lift that up, and sometimes some people actually hold them like that with their thumb under the pan. I don't tend to do that because it sort of gives me a bit of false security with me finger under the pan there, so I don't even do that. I just hold them underneath. When you pick them up, obviously you can sort of lift that jaw up and actually grab them by that little tag there, which is quite a safe way to hold them. You can put them in the ground like that as well. When you put them in the ground, you can actually lower them in. But that can be a whole nother video. So there they are. As you can see, they're all lined up here. Once again, all very, very good, you know, good traps in my opinion. They're all obviously got their little good parts and bad parts about them, but definitely worth considering. One thing I did forget to mention in regards with the traps is make sure you check your local regulations and rules when it comes to what particular type of traps you can use. I know in some areas you have to use rubber jaws, in other areas you don't have to use rubber jaws. Actual size depends on where you're trapping, but the actual size of the trap can make a vary as well. So just make sure you check your local rules and regulations with that side of stuff. Overall, I hope this video has actually helped you out a little bit as far as when you're looking at traps on the internet without sort of physically holding them in your hands. Now you've got a bit of an idea of the size of them, you know, my opinion on the good parts and bad parts on them, and so on and so forth. So if you've got any other questions or anything like that regarding the types of traps, or if I've missed anything, I've got no doubt that I've, you know, missed something when it comes to, you know, speaking about these traps. So you got to remember that this is definitely not something that I do full time, talking about traps or anything like that. So, and without someone here actually asking me these questions, I don't know really what to talk about, believe it or not. So I'm just rambling on with whatever's coming to my head at the time. I don't write anything down. I don't you know, have a script here of what to talk about. So hopefully it sort of got my point across, what I was trying to make, and gives you a bit of an idea of you know, the different styles of traps that you can get these days and things like that. Thanks for watching. Change screens.
Change screens!
Trying to get video of me get my hand caught.
Yeah.
Right, so overall, we've just got a